Donato's is legendary for putting so much on their pizzas, but just listen to what they're taking off. Right now, buy any large pizza and add a large one-topping pizza for half off. Use promo code HALF. Donato's, gotta love more.
The Sports Desk at the Columbus Dispatch presents the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast. With your host, Ohio State basketball beat writer Adam Jardy.
Brady Machine says, "Give me the rock." Here it goes. Up and away. Slam jam bam. And now he does a little dance.
Now, the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Adam Jardy from the Columbus Dispatch. Today is Friday, March 13th, 2026. It's my official duty to welcome you into episode 542 of the BuckeyeXtra Men's Basketball Podcast. Welcome to Jubilation City. Welcome to one of the strangest places I have recorded a podcast. I'm here. I'm in O'Hare. If you've ever spent time in O'Hare, you know that like the L gates have like this super long, weird walkway that has these like ledges and like these like cylinder. I'm blanking on the right word to describe this. I will take a photo of where I'm podcasting and I'll post it to the Instagram at hoops_and_scoops. Before I get out of here. But it's been kind of a crazy day. And when you're covering a team in the tournament like this, you never quite know like how this is going to work and what the logistics are going to be. And with Ohio State beating Iowa on Thursday, but then playing the 11 a.m. East or Central Time game, flew in on the night before and covered the game, stayed last night, woke up this morning, Ohio State, Michigan at 11 o'clock local time. And then it was, let's see what happens. And if they don't win, figure out when do I fly back Friday? Do I fly back Saturday? There weren't any really good Saturday options. And Saturday is going to be busy preparing for Selection Sunday. And now as we sit here and Ohio State has wrapped up its run in the Big Ten tournament with a 71-67 loss to Michigan. I'm here at O'Hare. And there's been a ton of flight delays and was able to get a late night flight. And so, what's funny is I'm looking out a window that overlooks a whole bunch of the different gates. And so unfortunately I can see the reflection behind me of all these people who are like walking and noticing that there's a dude on his knees talking into a microphone with a computer in front of him. So it's quite the scene. I wish that I had a second person here. A photo would do it justice, but unfortunately it's just me, and I'll take a photo of the setup, but I won't be in it. So like I said, we're here to talk about Ohio State bowing out of the Big Ten tournament in what was a heck of a game. It's a final score, Michigan 71, Ohio State 67. And this is the game that was, it looked like it was heading one of two ways, and then it didn't. And then the outcome still ended up being kind of what I thought it would be, but I didn't expect this to be the journey that we would take to get there. I really felt like coming into this trip, I thought Ohio State would most likely beat Iowa. I felt pretty confident that that was going to be a revenge type of bounce back game. The Buckeyes would play well, would take care of Iowa. And then my thought was then they'd be like up 4 on Michigan at halftime, and Michigan would probably do enough to pull away late. And instead, the sort of opposite happened. Michigan got out to a really good start, 7-0 before Ohio State scored. It was 15-5, and Michigan still pushed it a little bit further. It was 27-16 and then 29-18 on a Yaxel Lendenborg slam dunk with 6 minutes to go. It was pretty much the high point of the night for Yaxel, who was a non-factor for the entirety of this game. But Ohio State, despite being down 11 and really struggling to make shots early, Ohio State, while falling behind 15-5, missed 6 of his first 8 shots. It was 1 of 5 from 3. Michigan hit its first 4 threes. You felt like, all right, these are two teams that are going to go in 2 different directions. But then, as this team has done, especially of late, it started to dig in. The Buckeyes started to get some stops. They started to make some shots. And before you knew it, we had a game. And Buckeyes were down 4 at halftime, which was, again, the opposite of what I had predicted. I thought that Ohio State would be up 4 at the break, but it ends up being, it's 39-35 at the half. And second half was kind of bonkers. So Michigan Ohio State did not have a lead in this game until it was with 5:40 to go. Devin Royal hits a 3-pointer from the top of the circle that makes it 61-60. And then Roddy Gale misses the front end of a 1-and-1. Yaxel Lendenborg fouls Christoph Tilley. He makes the front end of a 1-and-1, misses the second. With 5:08 to go, Ohio State's up 2. First lead of the night for Ohio State, and ultimately would be the only lead of the night. Michigan would then score in its next 4 possessions to build a 67-64 lead. And then Ohio State got the ball in the hands of its primary playmakers, and they just couldn't connect. Devin Royal misses a fadeaway jumper from the right elbow. Morez Johnson comes down, misses a shot. Ohio State calls timeout. 1:59 to go, down 3. They get the ball to Thornton in the paint. He misses. And then Christoph Tilley had to leave the game at this point, dealing with the leg injury. He had to get a little bit of treatment on the bench. So they had to play without him for about 30 seconds. And in those 30 seconds, Gabe Cupps ends up getting matched up with the Yaxel Lendenborg down low, battling for a rebound. So when Elliot Cadeau misses a 3, Cupps gets called for the foul. Lendenborg goes to the line, hits 1 of 2 free throws with 1:24 left to make it a 2-possession game. Ohio State gets it to Thornton. He gets in the paint, and he misses a layup. Adai Mara misses at the other end, so Ohio State's still down 4. Devin Royal ends up drawing a foul. He makes a free throw, 29.1 seconds left. Cadeau hits 1 of 2 free throws with 20 seconds left to push it back to 4. And then a Devin Royal bucket with 6.5 seconds left. Ohio State was kind of scrambling at this point where you're down 4 with 20 seconds left. And Devin ended up scoring with 6.5 to go to cut it to 2. And then Lendenborg with 2 free throws with 6 seconds left to seal it for Michigan. But this is a wild game. And I'm going to do my best to hit a couple of quick takeaways here before I have to go board my flight. And before I should start counting the weird stares that I get as I'm sitting here. I'm literally kneeling because the ledge here is just a little bit too awkward for me to be leaning down to talk into. So I'm kind of staring up at the mic a little bit like Liam Gallagher. Those who know, if you know, you know. So we're going to get a little bit more into what I learned in the locker room and some of my primary takeaways from this game here in just a second. Before we do, I want to remind you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts. If you subscribe, you'll automatically get the newest ones just as soon as our man Patrick Flaherty, the Podfather, can grab them and publish them for us. While you're subscribing or downloading, please leave a review. Please click 5 stars and please consider telling a friend. Great time of year to be subscribing to the podcast. I will be back with you again on Sunday night. I don't know what time it will be, but we will have a bracket to look at. We will have Ohio State's first appearance in the NCAA tournament in 4 years to begin to analyze. We will have an opponent to start thinking about. We are almost there. I cannot believe that it's Friday night and in 2 days it's going to be Selection Sunday and we got a tournament to break down. Like those of you who've been listening know the NCAA tournament is my favorite thing to cover, and getting to do that in this job is the absolute highlight. And so certainly I'm happy for the guys on this Ohio State team that will have that opportunity, some of them for the first time. Selfishly, I'm happy. I can't wait to be there. I can't wait to see it. That first day on site in the NCAA tournament, when there's 8 teams and you got games all day and people running from the workroom to the court to the TVs, like there's nothing like it. I cannot wait. And I can't believe that that's going to be next week. Donato's is legendary for putting so many toppings on their pizzas, but just wait till you hear what they're taking off. For a very limited time, when you buy any large Donato's pizza, you can add a large 1-topping pizza for 50% off. That's right, half off. You order using promo code HALF. Order your favorite large Donato's pizza and add a large 1-topping pizza for half off today. Donato's, gotta love more. So first thing, and like really the most interesting thing for me that I wanted to talk about in that post-game locker room was the thought that this team has played really well lately. And that's, I think our eyeballs would tell us that. Certainly the analytics tell us that. The month of March, this has been one of the more talented teams in the nation. And if you go over to barttorvik.com and sort the data and just look at the month of March, Ohio State has played as I had it pulled up. I don't. I wrote this in my takeaways, which as of me speaking have not been published, but they will be published hopefully by the time you hear this. So if you go to barttorvik.com, like I said, and you just sort it, who has done what in this month? Ohio State has played as the number 6 team nationally. Arizona 3rd, Duke 4th, Michigan 5th, Arizona 3rd, Duke 4th, Florida 5th, Michigan 10th, Ohio State 6th. Those are the likely 4 1 seeds in the NCAA tournament. In the month of March, Ohio State has played right there even with every one of those teams. And I think that's worth keeping in mind as we start thinking about the fact that the Buckeyes will be playing most likely one of those 4 teams in the second round, assuming that they make it out of the 8-9 game. That seems to be the most likely landing spot for this team. And for the last 2 weeks, Ohio State has played evenly from a national perspective with any of those teams. And so what's interesting to me is that certainly since that Iowa loss, this team looks different. This team feels different. This team seems to be playing different. And so my number one question to guys in the locker room was simply, you've been playing better. You had this 4-game winning streak. Does the fact that you played well for the majority of this game, but you lose, does that change the momentum? Does that change how you feel you're entering the postseason? Because you had been playing well, you had this winning streak, now the winning streak is over. And let's see, so I talked to Devin Royal, John Mobley, Christoph Tilley, Bruce Thornton, Brandon Knoll, Puff Johnson, Jake Diebler. I think that was everybody that I got to. And the overwhelming response was that no, this doesn't change how they feel. This doesn't change the fact that they do feel like they're coming into March Madness with some significant momentum behind them. This doesn't seem to change a whole lot of that. I basically just kind of laid it all out to Bruce in that way. I just said, it's kind of a weird moment right now. Here you are, you've been playing well. Michigan did what it had to do against you guys in the first 2 games this season. You nearly win. You don't, but you nearly win. You play pretty good basketball for the majority of the game. You come up short. Does that undo anything? Do you come out of here thinking man, we almost had it? Do you come out of here man, we can't wait to play in March? Do you come out of here we're susceptible to something? He said, quote, "It's definitely a weird situation, but it's a blessing." He said, "I like how my guys fought." Side note, Bruce Thornton calling the team "my guys." That's new. He said, "We had a great game plan, but basketball is. Ball bounces a couple ways, and we could have won that game." There was a play in this game that reminded me of the very end of the North Carolina game where, so with Ohio State within 65-64, after Thornton hits 2 free throws with 3:23 to go, Elliot Cadeau ends up getting the ball to Adai Mara, and the ball, he kind of drove along the left side of the paint, and then threw this bounce pass the other side to Mara. And I think it was a bounce pass. Either way, the pass made its way over there, and it kind of, for half a second, it was at the opposite end of the court from where I was sitting. But I felt like that ball was just going to go, Mara was going to cut and he was going to miss it. It was going to go past. It was going to where he was. It was going to be a turnover. Instead, he was able to nab it and lay it in. And it reminded me of that last Carolina bucket where Ohio State had turned it over, and North Carolina has the ball down 1, and the guy slips as he's kind of trying to throw a pass across the key, and it somehow goes through Christoph Tilley, gets to Henry Visar, he scores. This felt like that. And I asked Bruce about that. I said, when are you going to get one of those bounces? He said, if we keep playing hard, sometimes it happens. He said, we didn't play hard the first 7 to 8 minutes. Low key bit us at the end. It's hard not to play at a high level against a good team like that. So the Buckeyes really were self-critical of the opening to this game, where they talked about their transition defense, how big of a key that was in this game, and how much they had focused on that. And it got better as the game went on, but that was a big part of Ohio State digging the hole that it did. And I can't remember who it was now that made the point. Maybe it was Tilley. I think he said, I said, you guys, you fought, you came back, you're down 11 and you take the lead in the second half, about 5 minutes to go. And he said, if we would have had a better start, we would have maybe been up by not only 1, but maybe 5. He said, then the game would have looked different. He said, if we played good for 40 minutes, I think the result would be different. I do think that the way this game unfolded, and I do think that the way that Ohio State fought, I thought that the way that they, we just saw them play Michigan a month ago in Columbus, and it was never close. And once Michigan got the lead, the Wolverines just steadily pulled away. And there was no punchback from Ohio State. There was no run that was going to make it a close game. And once Michigan got that early lead in this game, you thought, well, is this just going to be a continuation of that? And instead, it was the opposite. And certainly, they got some shot making from a couple of guys. Thornton finished with 20.
Please use the nearest elevator when moving between floors. Thank you.
Yeah, Thornton had 20. Mobley had 14. Devin Royal, I thought, I questioned some of his shot choices, but he had 13 and 11. Ohio State was against a Michigan team that had a significant size advantage. The Buckeyes were out rebounded 34-32. I believe in the two prior games this season, I mean, they lost the rebounding battle in both of those, I think by a combined like 20 something rebounds. So this was a lot closer than that. But as they talked about the transition points and things like that, so Ohio State turned it over 10 times in this game. Michigan turned it over 9 times. Michigan turned Ohio State's 10 turnovers into 19 points. And Ohio State turned Michigan's 9 turnovers into 8 points. So Michigan with a 19-8 advantage in points off of turnovers. And then fast break points. Michigan 22-6. So certainly both of those things are connected. That was a big part of the game. And then I think just the ability at a couple of critical times, like Elliot Cadeau finished with 15 points, 7 assists. He did have 4 turnovers, but the number of times that Cadeau could just like go around a screen, get an inch of separation, and then just lob the ball in the direction of the rim, and Mara was there to clean it up. Like that's a tough defend for anybody. So Mara finished with 17 and 7. Morez Johnson looked like he was on his way to another double-double against Ohio State, but he finished with 11 and 7. Yaxel Lendeborg, Big Ten Player of the Year, 6 points on 4 shots. He did have 6 assists and 5 rebounds. So, pretty, I guess, solid all-around game. But there was no point in this game where I thought, like, man, Yaxel's really, like, dictating how this game is going to go. Or he's, I thought Ohio State did a really good job, like, taking care of him and just not letting him get going. This was a significant turnaround for Ohio State when it came to a number of defensive factors. You look at where Ohio State is in some of the efficiency ratings, and you look at how Ohio State battled Michigan defensively in some of these in the earlier matchups this season. So the 21-point loss was Ohio State's 5th worst defensive game of the year. Michigan ended at 124.3 points per 100 possessions. And then the loss at Michigan, which was a 12-point loss, was middle of the pack for Ohio State. Michigan, 113.7 points. This ended up being 106.0 points per 100 possessions for Michigan, which is Ohio State's 3rd best defensive effort in a loss this year. It was also Michigan's 6th worst offensive game of the season. And you go back to that win in Columbus, Michigan was 75.9% from 2. The Wolverines got to the rim. They finished at the rim. There was very little resistance from Ohio State in that game. 47.9% in this game. Ohio State forced Michigan to 47.9 shooting from 2-point range. That's the 2nd worst mark for Michigan this season. And ultimately, yes, this all adds up to a 4-point loss that, boy, you really do feel like it was there. And you feel like Ohio State was knocking on the door to what would have been a significant win. I mean, to go from where this team was, coming back from Iowa City, and to think about winning 4 straight, bringing momentum into this game, and then had they taken down Michigan, like, I don't know if a 7 seed would have been on the table. And actually, as I'm saying this, I realize I haven't checked, to see if Lenardi has a new bracket update on ESPN since the game ended. So let me check this real quick. Okay, so as of 7:12 p.m. Eastern on March 13th, Ohio State is an 8 seed playing 9 seed Villanova in Greenville for the right to play 1 seed Duke in the 2nd round. I have some feelings about that. But the loss doesn't appear to be dropping Ohio State. I think they seem pretty locked into that 8-9 game, kind of no matter how this plays out these next 48 hours or so. Excuse me. One of the next things that was interesting to me was that we did get Brandon Knoll sighting. He returned to the lineup for the first time since suffering the injury on January 5th. Once I finish recording this, I'll be writing a story about him and how difficult of a process this was. He said he didn't know at that point if his career was over. And that was like a tough deal for him to try to come to grips with. And so then he tried to just kind of block out and do the work he needed to do to get back in the game. And he did. He didn't have much of an impact in this game. He did have a potential big time 3-pointer that did not fall. He played 12 minutes, 2 points. He had a putback of a Gabe Cupps miss. He missed a 3-pointer when it was 35-33 Michigan at the end of the first half, and certainly would have given Ohio State its first lead of the game at that point. But Ohio State led this game for 54 seconds, which is, I guess that's not too wild given how this feels as we sit here. But so he got back in the game. Puff Johnson played 2 minutes in this game. He ended up with a 2 trillion. I did have a long conversation with Puff, and something else I'll be writing here in the next day or two. But dealing with, he got cleared for Ohio State, and then he had a concussion, and then he came back, and he's been dealing with another injury. And so we talked about that, but we also talked about the fact that, he played in that North Carolina team that made it all the way to the national championship game before losing. And, he's been on teams that, a team that put together a significant deep run. And so we talked about like what that team had that enabled it to do that, and what sort of similarities he sees in this Ohio State team. We also compared the Duke Carolina rivalry with the Ohio State Michigan rivalry. So I'll be writing that here sometime in the next 24 hours, but it was a really interesting conversation with him, and another reminder of just how awesome it is when the locker rooms are open and you can just kind of go talk to anybody about anything. So I'm looking forward to writing that here shortly, as well as obviously the Brandon Knoll story. Tayson Chapman was the lone unavailable, or I shouldn't say lone unavailable Buckeye, because Josh Ojawana still obviously is not playing this year. He was out, but Chapman they thought he was going to play. He was dealing with a bit of a groin injury, and he went through warmups and looked like he looked more available in warmups than Devin Royal did at Michigan State. Like Devin, to me, looked sick in warmups, and I was like, man, this guy isn't going to be able to play a game. But Tayson looked better, and Diebler said that there's real hope that when they do play in the NCAA tournament, they will literally have everybody available. So they don't think this is any sort of long-term thing with Tayson, but it did force them to play Gabe Cupps 17 minutes. And I thought this was a second consecutive, just acceptable, seems like a backhanded compliment, but like Gabe Cupps gave them something. He played 17 minutes. He had 5 points. He hit a three. He had a nice aggressive drive that he finished. That's progress. And that's more, the 5 points are the most he scored since the Oregon game. So that's not a whole lot of production, but like they'll take that. That has an impact. He did have to leave the game. He hit the three, and then he scored on a drive. And then like a minute later, he was like he was in pain. He had to come out, and he said his wrist been bugging him, but he said he's fine. He obviously then would play in the game later. But they dealt with some more injury stuff in this game. That's the update on Chapman. They don't think it's going to be any sort of long-term deal with him. As far as just like what happens next, the guys talked about how in these next 2 days between now and Selection Sunday that I asked Diebler, like, what do you do with these next 2 days? He said, we're going to visit the training room. We're going to recover. We're going to get some rest. Oh, and you mentioned like Tilly being out late. Tayson tried to be out. He said, we're going to look forward to seeing where we're at. He said, we talked about getting multiple buys in this Big Ten tournament. That was important for us. We talked about at this time of year, not playing for whether we're in or out, but playing for seeding. We did that. We like to have a couple possessions back here and there throughout the year. Sure. But a sign of a tough connected group is you move past that. You start playing your best ball at the end of the season. That's what we're doing. When I asked Devin Royal, I said, what are you going to do these next 2 days, between now and the start of the tournament or between now and Selection Sunday? And he said, just get home, get work in, watch film, get ready for the next one. Similar answer to what John Mobley Jr. said, which is, what are you going to do these next 2 days? He said, I will be in the gym getting shots up because I need to. When Selection Sunday comes, it's going to be a celebration for sure. It's been 4 years since it happened. Once that's over, it's right back to work. And as far as I thought there's a fair quote here from Bruce as well about like, how do you feel? Like, I was just very curious, and I had just kind of a quick talk with him because then he had to run and go do interviews at the podium. But I just said, you're going to the NCAA tournament for the first time. Like, how does this feel? He said, it feels great, but I'm understanding how close we were to winning this game. He said, it's bittersweet. I'm trying to win as a competitor, but I know we've got bigger goals after this. He also pointed out, I asked him, what are you going to do? He's like, I've never been in this situation before, so it'll be different for me, which I said, that's a fair point.
35, 64 to Portland, Maine, Virginia, L4.
Yeah. So, other than that, it's interesting too, when you get to this part of the year and you look at these types of games, and it's like, there are sequences in the games that add up to whether it's a win or a loss. But at this point, it like the end result, rather than like trends and things like that, is really what ultimately tends to weigh out, or to win out. And the like intricacies of like, a 9-1 run in the middle of the first half, like that stuff just isn't as meaningful. It doesn't carry as much like intrigue for me at this point of the year, as opposed to just overall big picture. How are you playing? What does this mean? Like, where's the momentum? Like, how is this affecting you getting ready for the next game and health of the team? Like that stuff is all much more like top of mind, I suppose, to me, and maybe some of the more intricate, like nitty gritty stuff that we tend to get into on the podcast. So I feel like it's kind of a broader look at all of this, but I'm not sure that, like, you kind of are who you are at this point. Like, we kind of know what this team is, and I don't think that this result changes, like I said at the beginning, I don't think this result changes how this game or how this team should be viewed as it enters the postseason. And I'm really curious to see what that draw looks like in the NCAA tournament here on Sunday. But like I said, I'll be back with you after the selection show and after I write a whole bunch of things that night. We'll see. I think Ohio State's doing like a private thing for the selection show. Hopefully we'll have some interviews on Sunday night, and then we'll start figuring out the logistics for next week. But thanks for bearing with me on a weird travel day where it's like, when I woke up this morning, I thought I would be in Chicago tonight, but the opportunity to get home and be home all day on Saturday before Selection Sunday, and like spend a little bit more time with everyone in the family before next week and heading off to who knows where. Like, really excited to get home tonight, and hopefully these wins aren't as insane as they have been throughout the course of the day. So I'm gonna wrap this one up. I apologize for all the background noise and things like that, but wanted to get something recorded here tonight before I get back to Columbus. So as always, you can send along your questions, your comments, your love notes, your hate mail, and otherwise constructive criticism to me at Adam Jardy on Twitter or ajardy@dispatch.com. Thank you again for listening. Thanks to Patrick Flaherty, the Podfather, for putting this out there. I'll be back with you Sunday night. Enjoy the next 48 hours, Buckeye fans, and enjoy the anticipation, the build up to Selection Sunday, and it's going to be a fun day. I can't wait to get a bracket. So hopefully you feel the same. Until we speak again, be kind, take care, and we'll talk soon.
Want a huge deal on a large pizza? For a very limited time at Donato's, buy any large pizza and add a large one-topping pizza for 50% off. Yes, half off. Use promo code HALF. Donato's, gotta love more.
Be sure and subscribe to the Buckeye Extra podcast in the iTunes Store, the Google Play Store, or on Stitcher.